What's up, Notjust developers? Welcome back to a new tutorial. Today, we're going to continue the build that we have started previous week. In this project, we are building the Meetup clone using React Native Expo and Supabase. So this is an events application where you can list events, you can browse through the events. Today, we're going to add some advanced features like looking on the map, doing some geo-filtering, but more about that in a second. So, in the previous video, which you can find here, I'm also going to give you access to this page, we have implemented the following features. We started with designing the user interface and we implemented everything with React Native Expo, with Expo Router. So we have pages here for the tabs, for profile, for the events. We have styled everything using native Wind, which allows us to use Tailwind CSS classes in React Native, which is super powerful. Here on the main page, we see the list of events that are fetched from the database, and also we can view the details of it. So after we implemented the UI, we also have implemented the backend. For that, we have used Supabase. So we first set up Supabase project, then we integrated authentication. So now users can go ahead, create an account or sign in here with their actual account. Let me actually do that so that you can see a quick demo. If I remember my password, yeah, here it is. And now I can go ahead in the profile and adjust the name, the username, and other fields. Then we also created some tables to store our data. For example, information about the events is stored in the table and then queried and displayed in the application. We also managed to integrate the attendance. So now we can go ahead, view an event, and if we like it, we can press join the event, and a new line is going to be added in our attendance that creates a link between a profile, a user, and an event. And later on, we can press on the view attendance to see the list of people that are joining that event. So that's what we have right now. That's what we have as a starting point for today. You can go ahead and follow the link in the description of this video to get the source code. And also in the description, you're going to find the asset bundle. If you go to assets.notjust.dev/meetup, this is where you're going to be able to get the asset bundle that will allow you to receive this step-by-step guide that we can follow. Here is the link, and you're going to get access to it. All right, that's everything that we have done in the first part. And there are some very fun and very important features to make this application more complete and more production ready that I wanted to cover in today's video. First of all, we're going to start with the possibility for users to create events. For that, we have to create a form and to insert new events in the database. Then we're going to talk about storage and implement it in our application so that users can upload their avatars and we can also upload event images. Then we're going to get into Geo Queries so that we can filter and search events only close to our geographical location. That's going to be a very fun one, and I think an important feature that once you learn here, you're going to be able to apply to a lot of other projects. And then we're going to also integrate maps so that we can display events on a map. So that is the plan for today. We again have a lot of things to implement, so I think that we can already get started. So let's roll the intro and let's get started. All right, hello everyone who is joining us live. And if this is the first time you land on one of our videos, and if you're on your journey of learning and becoming a React Native developer, make sure to hit subscribe to our channel, because that's what we do here. We are publishing a lot of project-based tutorials where you can learn mobile development, learn React Native, Expo, Supabase, and a lot of other cool technologies by building fun and exciting projects. Because that's the best way to learn, that's the most the way that I used to learn everything, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna enjoy it as well. So subscribe to the channel. That takes you literally 2 seconds, and that would mean a lot to us. Thank you very much. And now let's get to the coding part. Hello about from Syria. Hello from Syria. Suhayapka. Hello. How are you doing? Long time no see. React Native 2024. Let's go. Please share resources for game development with React Native. We have actually made a game on the channel, the Flappy Bird. You can check it out. Okay guys, so as I said, our first step is going to be around creating events, because so far what we have is events that we have manually added in the database, and we're simply fetching them and rendering on the screen. I think it's time to go ahead and implement the possibility to add events. And the first step is to create a screen for that. That's going to happen on a new screen. So let's think, where do we want to create the screen? Do we want to create it in the tabs folder? I don't think so, because creating it into the tabs folder will add a new tab here. But actually, maybe that's good. Let me just double check maybe to see where actually Meetup is doing that. And it's not that important, but if it's easy to be as close as possible to what the actual application is doing, then it's going to be better. So on Meetup, I don't even know where you can do that. Probably you can only create it if you are a pro member. Start a new group. Yeah, I don't see the way to create an event. Probably creating an event is only for pro. So let's go ahead and actually create it in the tabs. As the tab in the middle, that's going to be called the create.tsx. That's where we are going to have a form to create a new event. Let's go ahead and export default a functional component called create event page. And this is going to be a normal component that renders something. For example, let's start with rendering a text saying create event. We need to import this text from React Native, so I'm gonna do that at the top. Import text from React Native. And now we should see, if I reload the application, we should see one more tab here at the bottom, and it's shown as the last one as create. And if we navigate there, we see the text create event. Perfect. Let's go into the layout. And in the layout, I'm going to, it's added at the end because by default, Expo Router is going to look into this file, into the layout of our tabs, and we'll first render these tabs that we see here, and then we'll render the rest of the tabs. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy paste the tabs.screen profile one more time. And the one that is in the middle, I'm going to rename it to create, to say that I want the create profile, the create page to be in the middle. Let's give it a title, new event. Will it work? And for the icon, let's do plus. Yeah, that's good. So now if we go in the middle tab, because that's why it's in the middle here, we're gonna go to the new event page. Okay, now we can easily go into the create page and start building the user interface for our screen. So I'm gonna delete actually this one, and everything is going to start with a view. And we need to import the view from here. And what will we have here in the new event is a form. So form needs inputs. In React Native, we have a component called text input that allows us to render a text input and let user type something. So if I just render it here in the view as text input, nothing is going to be there, but trust me, it's there. To see it, we're going to just go ahead and give it a placeholder and say title. And right away we see here at the top there the placeholder, and we can actually start typing something there. That's our text input, and probably I'm gonna go ahead in the off login, because here I have text inputs with some class names that would be perfect for us to style this input similar to how we have it on the login screen. And it's not very visible because our parent view needs, for example, a background color white, a flex 1 to make sure that the whole page is white, and also a padding 5 to have some spacing around. Okay, that's already better. Now that we have this text input for the title, I think it makes sense to go ahead and add the other properties that we need here. For example, the next one is description. So let's go ahead and copy paste this text input and say that this is going to be description. But the description should be multi-line. So let's say that this is a multi-line text input, and the number of lines, let's do 3 or something like that. And we can even give it a minimum height of 12. Min height 12 didn't really work, because if we write it expands, that I want, oh, but what I really want to do maybe height 12, let's try. Class name, height 12. Maybe 12 is too little. Yeah, I don't know, 4. Let's do 96. Okay, that's better, but too much. So I'm gonna give it 48, just 48. Yeah, maybe that's good. Maybe too much. 32. Yeah, I think that's nice. And let's give it a minimum height, 32, because if it goes overboard, I want it to grow. Perfect, that's good. Let's delete it. To add some spacing between the text inputs, I'm going to manage it at the parent component using a gap property. And I'm going to give it a gap 3. That adds a bit of spacing there. Perfect. So after the description, we have a date, then we have location, and we have image. And we also have user ID, which is the ID of the organizer. So for date, what we're gonna need is a date selector, a date picker. For that, I'm gonna use React Native date selector, which is a package. Yeah, let's try to install date picker. Yeah, this library cannot be used with Expo Go. So for that reason, we're gonna have to create a development build. It's quite early to create a development build, but we will actually need it because a bit later we're gonna use MapBox, and in that case there is no way around, like we need a development build. So it's not gonna be too complicated to create a development build. It just requires that you have Xcode if you are on macOS, or Android Studio if you're on Windows. So let's go ahead and first install React Native Date Picker. And I'm gonna go ahead, open a new terminal and do npx expo install React Native Date Picker. And then we're gonna have to create a development build. For that, what we have to do is, first of all, we need to create the Android, we need to create the Android and iOS folders. For that, we have to run npx expo prebuild. This command will look at our configurations and will create that native side directories. So let's give it a package name for Android. I'm gonna leave it like this. For iOS, I'm gonna leave it like this. And now we see Android and iOS folder being created. They're not built yet, they're just simply created based on all the configuration that we have in our application, based on all the config plugins that we have, and so on. After we have done that, we are waiting for native dependencies to be installed. We need to build this project. To build it, we simply run npx expo run Android to build it for Android, or run iOS to build it for iOS. And that's it. It's nothing too complicated. The only thing, as I said, is that you need Xcode to build it for iOS and Android Studio to build it for Android. And that's it. If you don't have it, you can also do the development builds in cloud using EAS. So you can go to this documentation, Introduction to Development Build, and read more on how you can do that with EAS. Because now we chose to create this build locally. Let me double check if this library needs how's it called? Config plugin. But I don't see it needing, so I'm gonna go with it. The cool thing is that it also supports the new architecture. The build is going to usually take around 3 to 4, sometimes a bit more minutes. But we need to do it like quite rarely, like we do it once, and after that, we have it on our device and we can run our JavaScript side. And the development build, to put it in different words, so far we are running our application in Expo Go. So think about Expo Go as a browser that is running websites. In this case, Expo Go is a browser and the website is our JavaScript side of our application. By creating a custom development build, we're creating our custom version of Expo Go, because Expo Go as a browser has limited native side possibilities. It cannot have everything that is possible out there. For that reason, whenever we need something extra, a library that has custom native code, we have to build our own browser that is specifically made for our project, and that browser is going to properly run our application because it was built for it. So that's what we are doing right now. We are going from Expo Go to a custom build, custom development build, but we're gonna see it running in a second. Hello, Mike. How are you in the UK? How is the weather? Hello, Ayodeji. Is Express.js included? Included in what? It would be awesome if you shipped applications, startups each stream. That would be nice. Should we do like some kind of a indie hacking marathon of just creating and deploying and publishing and marketing applications? Would you be interested? I'm really curious. Because I would have so much fun doing that. Let me know. Should we do like some kind of series for indie hacking? And we see that our application has finished building, and we see the open in Meetup which means that now we're gonna go from Expo Go application to actually Meetup. Here, everything is working as it was working before. I can do like this. I don't know what's happening there behind the scenes. There are some digits, but okay, here it is. Everything is working as it was working before, but now because we have installed that library that has native side dependency, as we are in a separate application in a custom development build, we should be able to use the library React Native Date Picker. So let's see how we can use it. I'm gonna scroll down a bit. In the model mode, we're gonna take this rendered date of the date picker. Let's go into the application, tabs, create, and after the text input, I'm gonna put the date picker, which first we need to import. For open or close, that should be this one. We need a state that will tell us if it's open or closed. I think I need to use another library, but let's try this one. And we need a button that will actually trigger the opening this package. Now another state variable for the date that will store the date that we are selecting, and that's it. Now if I go here and press on the open, it should open this package, and I can press confirm, and it should be set here in the state. So instead of the but, I think I'm okay with that. It looks kind of okay. I'm wondering how it will look on Android, and on Android, this is inline and this is model. Yeah, on Android it also looks nice. So the only thing is that instead of a button, I'm going to create it also as some kind of a text. Let's say I'm gonna do text. I'm gonna actually display the date there. Date, maybe to a locale string. And we see the date there. I'm gonna say when we press on this date, I want to set the model to open, and I don't need the button anymore because now I can press on the date, I can select Saturday for tomorrow, and it's gonna update here automatically. And now we can probably give the same kind of class name for this text. With exception, like I don't need the minimum height, but now it looks like an input similar to how the other inputs are, and if I press on it, I can change stuff and it's displayed here. Looking good? I think it looks good. Date picker, model, we open, date, when confirm, we close the model. We set the date, on cancel, we close the model. That means that if we do cancel, we don't do anything. Okay, that looks good. I'm also want to see if there is a possibility to only allow users to select dates in the future. And I'm talking about minimum date. So when you are creating an event, you need to select a date in the future. That's why I'm gonna give here minimum date as new date, which is current date, which is the now date. So now if I go here and select yesterday, I'm not going to be allowed to because it will show me, hey, only today. So I can create an event for later today, but I cannot create an event for earlier today. Perfect. Yes, that's what I wanted. The interval at which minutes can be selected, that's cute. I would say, so maybe we can do 15. So we can select minutes at every 15 minutes. We don't need more granular than that. And in the next step, we need to see what other fields do we need. So we have title, description, date. For location, I'm not yet ready for that. For that, most probably we're gonna integrate some kind of a location service, most probably MapBox. For image as well, I'm not ready yet. The user ID, we're gonna automatically take it from the user who is currently authenticated. So that means that we're ready to add the button at the bottom of the screen to create the event. So I'm gonna go again in the login screen and I'm gonna steal one of these buttons, specifically the last one, because that has a background. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna open pressable, and on press, let's do create event. Create event is going to be a function that we implement here. Create event is going to be an asynchronous function because in a moment we're gonna store it with our API. And also we need a state variable for either it's loading or not. Use state false. Now let's see the button, what else it needs. Let's rename it to create event or save, and it doesn't need this flex one. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna only add here a style margin top auto in order to move a button all the way to the bottom of the screen. And I think that looks nice. And we can press, and it's gonna call this create event function. And in the create event function, that's where we're gonna save the event. But I forgot about something. The thing is that now the title and the description, there is no way for us to know what the user typed here when we press this button, because here we cannot access the value of a text input. What do we need in order to fix this? Well, we need to store the value of a title and the value of a description in a state variable, similar to how we have here with a date. Let's go ahead and create a state variable for the title and set title. Initially, it's going to be an empty string. Now the title state, we're gonna say that, hey, input your value, you should always display the value of my title state. So if here I'm gonna say, in the state, I'm gonna say title, and I'm gonna go here, it's going to be displayed in the text input, because now if we send the property value, the text input will always display value. And if I'm gonna try to change something, it's going to come back to the title, because it will display the title, but we never update the title. We never call the setter. When do we call the setter? When the text input changes the text. So I'm gonna send another property here on change text. I'm gonna say, hey, whenever you change the text, go ahead and call the set title function with a new updated text. For this to make more sense, I'm gonna expand it, because on change text expects a callback function that is going to give us back the new value of the text input. And we're gonna take the new value, we're gonna call the setter of our state with a new value. So now if I go here and write something, it's going to write, it's going to update the state. And now in the create event, I have access to the title state and I can store it in the database. So we have here this syntax, but it can be simplified whenever we have a callback function that calls another function and the parameters are exactly the same, text and text, I mean a string and a string, then we can simply avoid creating one extra callback function and send directly the setter here. And now on change text, we'll simply call this set title with the value of the new updated text. And it's still gonna work like this. And usually I write it like this because it's much simpler, but for you to understand what's happening there, this is not a value, this is not a normal value, this is a reference to a function that we're gonna send to the onChangeText callback. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same for the description. Const description, set description, use state, initially it's empty string, and we do two things. The value of our text input is going to be description, and the onChangeText is going to update the description. Now I can go ahead and write something here, and it's going to be stored in the title. I'm gonna put the date close to my other fields because they all belong together, something like this. And now we are ready to go ahead and implement the create event function. What do we need to do here? In the create event, we need to insert a new row into our events database. We're gonna do that through the Supabase API. And first we need to make sure that we have we are authorized and we have proper authentication policies to allow the user to create events. For that, I'm gonna go into the table editor, events, and I'm gonna press on the auth policy. Here, we're gonna see all the policies that are applied to my table. And if something is not allowed, by default, it is not permitted. So for us, only the select operation is allowed, meaning only reading information from this table is allowed. We need to also allow users to write something. So let's go ahead and press on the button create policy. And here are some templates. Sometimes they are good, some that are helping us. Sometimes we need to adjust them a little bit. But what we need is something for insert. Insert for authenticated users only. This policy gives insert access to your table for all authenticated users only. That's what we need. So I'm gonna press it. It's gonna fill in these values here that we can also adjust. But for us, it's good that it's exactly what we need. Then I'm gonna press save policy without any changes. Now going back to our table editor, the events has two auth policies and we are ready to insert stuff here. Let's go ahead and press on this API docs. And here we're gonna see an example of how to insert rows. We see here insert row, we can also insert many rows at the same time, but I'm gonna go ahead with this insert row. Let's copy it, let's go back to our code. I'm gonna paste it here, and we see, we need Supabase. I'm gonna quick fix and import it from our utils, where we initialize the client. We say, okay, we're working with the events table, and we need to insert this object. Well, the object needs actual columns here. So what columns? First, we have a title. The title is going to be taken from the state, basically what user wrote here, and it's the same name. That's why I can simplify it like this. We also have a description field in our database, and it's going to take the description from here. We also have a date field that we're going to take from there. But the date, if you see here, let's see if it's going to work like this. The ID is going to be auto-generated. Created at as well auto-generated. Location, we don't have it yet. Image URI, we don't have it yet, but user ID is something that we have and we need to provide because we want to assign this newly created event to our user. Where do we get the user ID? We get it using the use of context provider that we implemented in the previous tutorial. If we go to the context of provider, here we are storing information about session, and the session has information about the user, and we are exposing this information using this use of hook. If you need more information, go here. And using the use of, we can take the user and we can take the user and provide here user.id. Okay, that's everything that we have right now. We can go ahead and say console log data and also console log error to see if it worked or not. I think we're ready to test it. So I'm gonna go here in the title, say hello, description world, and let's say that the date is on Sunday at 12:00. Confirm. It was updated here. Let's do create event. Duplicate key. But the thing is that I'm not providing a key and I expect it to be auto-generated. If I'm gonna give manually here ID 10, let's see if it will work. Yes, it worked, but why it's not auto-generating? That's a bit weird. 9, 10. Because here automatically assign a sequential unique number to the column. Maybe the problem was with us manually inserting stuff there. So if I'm gonna do create event now, duplicate key. What I'm gonna try is I'm gonna try to remove everything here, delete rows, because maybe it's the way we inserted them. Now that there is no items, let's try to create one event. It's gonna create it with ID 4 for some reason. Then we create another event, it's 5. So now everything is back to normal. So yeah, the problem was that we inserted manually here, and probably that did not update like the highest ID or what's going to be the next ID. If we delete everything and just simply create it through the application, through this flow, now all the IDs are automatically incremented and everything is working properly. And let's see what's up with the date time. I think it worked correctly. This is most probably UTC time. Okay, that's nice. Title, description, location is not yet set, image URI, user ID. This is all pointing to me. Perfect. So that means that we have successfully saved the event in the database. And what we should do after we call this create event, I'm gonna clean up a bit. Let's do the following. Before we start calling the Supabase API, let's set the isLoading to true. Here, not isLoading, but let's do set loading. So set loading, it's gonna be true. And at the end, after we do this, we want to set loading to false. This will prevent the user for pressing create event multiple times, because we are disabling when we are loading. Now, after we do everything, I want to reset all the fields. So I'm gonna do set title to empty string. I want to set description to empty string, and I want to set date to new date, which is the current, which is now. So after we do something here, create event is going to be reset. And lastly, after everything is done, I want to do router dot go back. But first we need the router. Router from Expo Router dot either back, yeah, probably back. Or maybe, you know, we should navigate to the details page of that event. So I can do push. We're gonna push to the /event then we need the ID, so that's why I'm gonna select here template string to add here the data dot ID. The data might be null, so I'm gonna do all of these only if there are no errors. So if there is an error, I'm gonna probably do an alert failed to create the event, something went wrong. And otherwise, I'm going to consider that everything went successfully, and I will do push to that event. So if I'm gonna select something like this, then create it, I'm pushed to that event. It says event not found, because let's see, console log data. What's the data looking like? Yeah, data is an array. So what I'm gonna do is, after we do select, I'm gonna also do dot single to only return me the first item. I can also do like data at position 0.id, but I think this is more optimal because I'm always inserting one event here. So let's do again, create event. And now we are on that event with that details. And I can go and create, I don't know, React Native Mastery. Welcome to the React Native Mastery. Let's do it, I don't know, September. Confirm. And here we have it. Not sure where the date is coming from on the details page. We can actually have a look quickly here in the index. Where are we taking the date? Event.date time. It should be event.date. Monday, 23 September. Yes, and here as well, date. 3 p.m. Perfect. Exactly how I need it. Amazing. So now we have created successfully the event. It doesn't have an image yet, but at least it has. I need to reload. And it's going to have all of these events here. Oh, hello, Kathleen. How are you doing? I saw that you're back to YouTube. By the way, guys, let's go ahead and all make sure to send some love to Kathleen because he's coming back to YouTube. So just find Kathleen Miron, make sure you're subscribed. Also, turn on the notification. And make sure to check out his latest video. Let me go ahead and do a git status, git add, git commit -m, create event, and git push origin main. Before we move forward, you know, one thing that bothers me a bit, it's the wall red warnings that we see here. For example, let's go into the event page. Here, we never typed the event, the data, and that led to some issues. For example, with date time that we just fixed, that was an issue that could be prevented by TypeScript and by properly typing our data. The nice thing is that with Supabase, it's super easy to generate automatically the types for our tables. And then in most of the cases, Supabase will understand like what are these data, like event and so on. So let's go ahead and see how to generate these types. Supabase TypeScript. generating types. We can do that with CLI, and we can also do it from the dashboard itself. If I go to the dashboard under my API documentation, if I'm not mistaken, let's see. Yeah, maybe not here. Project settings, the API database. Remember, here you were able to do it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use CLI to call npx supabase generate types for TypeScript and for the project ID and so on. And then the generated types, I'm going to write them to a file. So let's go here and say npx supabase gen types TypeScript -- linked to take the linked database, or you can do the -- project ID and specify the ID. But I know that I already linked it. So now I'm gonna simply go ahead and dump the output in a folder that we have to create together here. So let's do how do you create a folder? Come on. New folder. Let's call it. Where is the new folder? I don't see it. Types. I'm gonna create it with name types. And now I can say, hey, dump all the generated types into the types /supabase.ts. If I do that, in a second here, we need to have a file called Supabase. That has the following output, which means that something I need to update npx supabase. So let's do first npx supabase and press yes to update it. And now I can do the previous command again. And everything worked fine. Here now in Supabase TS we have the database type with all the tables, functions, and so on. In the tables we have, for example, attendance, events, and so on. So what do we do with that? We go ahead where we initialize the Supabase client, and that's under utils Supabase. Here we go ahead and do import database from types Supabase. Then take this database and give it to the create client function. And now the Supabase is already typed, and everything that we are everywhere where we use Supabase something, for example, await Supabase from events, we can see that data is already typed, error is already typed. We see the problem with insert. What's the problem with insert? Tables, events. Yeah, that's a bit weird. But for example, in our application event ID index here, the event is still never, because the event, we take it from where? Here is the event. And we need to type this state with the event type. Let's look here in the documentation how we can get a type of one table. To do that, we are going to have to create some helper types because it's quite not user-friendly. Yeah, here in the shorthands. For example, to get access to a table, we need to do it like this. Database, public, tables, movies, rows. Well, I haven't tried this type fast, but I can go ahead and do the following. I'm gonna create here a db.ts file. I'm going to import the database here, and let's go ahead and export event type. And this event type, we're gonna access it by going into the database, then there we're gonna go into the public, then we're gonna go into the tables, we're gonna go into the events, and here is going to be the row specifically. So now the event is the type of one event, but I can take from here in any part of my application, for example, in the event page. I'm gonna say that this event is of type event from types.db. Event from types.db, and it can also be null. Initially it's null. Later when we query the data, something is not working properly here. Maybe my TypeScript server. Restart TypeScript. The data should be events row. A bit weird that it's not doing what I expect. So to use it, we simply do here in the create. Okay, it doesn't want. But still, like here, when we use it, for example, event.date, we know that the event has a date. Why is it any here? That was the problem, guys. Look, when creating the client, because my Supabase URL was possibly undefined, that affected the type of a Supabase because it says that maybe it's going to be not going to be created. So if I set that the Supabase URL is either this one or an empty string, which will fail, but at least the types are going to be created correctly. Now if I go back here and hover over the data of supabase.from, it's going to tell me that the data is of this type and it matches exactly the type of my event. Same things here with attendance, set attendance. The only thing is that we need in the database to do the same as we have for the event, attendance, right? In the table, it's attendance. No, there is no table like that. Let's try autocomplete. Attendance. Then it's row. Oh, it's with A. Now, similar, I'm gonna go back where we store in the state attendance. I'm gonna say this is going to be an attendance, the type that was auto-generated based on our table, and this is null. Attendance should be imported from types.db together with the event. Now if I look here, I can set the attendance properly. Event might be null. Okay, that's okay. And everything else looks much better. And in the create as well, if I go into the tabs create, what's going on here now? Insert. Date, it's string, so date is of type date. I think it should be transform date to ISO. Now it works. It was working even before, but based on the types, it was not correct. So now if I'm gonna create new 1, 2, 3 for today at 5:00 confirm, and if I create it, it's going to be 5:00 here, and yeah, everything is correct. All right, so finally, I have here git add, git commit types for tables. Yes. Hello, sir, please make a video for Supabase database local setup. Yeah, I will see, like it's a very important topic. Like maybe I'm gonna write a blog post or I'm gonna create a video. Yeah, let's see. Okay, so we can create events. But now about storage. I would like to allow users to upload an image for the events that we are creating. Before I do that, let's see the documentation. If we scroll through the guide that you got access to, there under the Supabase, I have a link for the post for building a user management application. If we scroll down, we're gonna see there a bonus feature for uploading profile photos. So we haven't implemented it yet, but let's try to do it following this guide. And if everything works fine, we're gonna duplicate it for the other feature for uploading the event photo. So what do we need? First, we need the Expo image picker. So let's go ahead and install it in our application. I'm gonna open it up the terminal and I'm gonna install the image picker. Then we need to create an upload image widget. We're gonna create a new component called avatar.tsx because we're gonna have like a lot of logic there related to images. So under components, let's create here avatar.tsx. And should we just try to take the whole code here and then see if it works or not? And I will explain you what's happening there. Let's go ahead and add the code and only change how we import Supabase because we need it from here. Let me remember where we have it in the utils. So into the home, utils, Supabase. Okay, now what do we do with this component? Most probably we are going to add the new widget in the account page. In the account page, we're gonna add it like this in the body. Let's see if it's gonna work. Let's go into our application. The profile page is here. So in the tabs profile, at the top of the screen, let's add a view, and inside the view, the newly created avatar components that we also have to import. And what's gonna happen here? We see that there is no native module. Why? Because we installed a package, but we didn't rebuild our application. So all we have to do is, again, Expo prebuild. It's going to update the dependencies, and then npx expo run iOS to rebuild our project. That step should be done after we install a new dependency that has native side code. Which auth we are gonna use? We already implemented authentication in the first part of the video, and we used Supabase authentication. So here we have different users. Hey Vadim, can you please make a separate video on how to convert a Figma application design to React Native? What exactly would you share? I think it's straightforward to do Figma to React Native. Or are there any particularities that you're interested in when it comes to Figma to React Native? Can you make a video how to use Google Auth with Supabase in React Native? Yeah, I think that a video on a proper authentication flow is long overdue. So yeah, something like that will happen. Okay, so what's happening here? Let's go here, reload the application, see if it's working. No, it's not. Why it's not working? We rebuild it. We kind of rebuild it, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do prebuild -- clean, and this, or I forgot to add the, let's see, let's look at the Expo image picker. Expo image picker, we need to install it, and we also need to add a plugin. So under the plugins, let's copy this array that has the name Expo image picker and the object with its configuration. We need to add it to our app.json. Under plugins here, after Expo Router, we put a comma and we add the new image picker. I'm going to do pre-build again. And we can do npx expo run iOS. While this is building, let's have a look at the avatar component that we copy-pasted from the documentation. So first of all, it's the avatar. It has a size and a callback function on upload. First, it downloads the image that was already there, the avatar that the user already has, and it uses supabase.storage. From avatars, it downloads the URL. Then with that data, what it's doing is it's reading as a stream and then setting the avatar URL in state, which later is being rendered locally. So basically it's downloading the image, transforming it, reading the data and setting it in state. And that avatar URL is later rendered on the screen as the image here. Then, if there is no image, it's going to be a simple view with a button down below, upload. When we press on that button, we are calling this upload avatar. It's launching the image picker. It's taking the image that the user selected. It's reading it to an array buffer. It's taking the file extension, the path, and it's uploading it to Supabase storage in the avatar's bucket. And then it's calling the callback function on upload. So let's see if it's gonna work. Come on, let's go. Okay, it was relaunched. Let's go ahead and log in. Sign in. It didn't work. Why? The folder doesn't exist. What's happening here? Let's try again. I'm gonna also stop the server, start it again. And here it's saying using Expo Go. So I'm gonna press S to switch it to development build. And now I'm gonna press I to run it here. Cannot find Expo image picker. Why? Come on, I installed it. What did I miss? In the package.json, image picker, we installed it. We added it to plugins. What's going on? Okay, I'm gonna try again by deleting the application, by stopping the server, by doing pre-build clean, and this is supposed to delete and regenerate the iOS and Android folder. It's installing. And now let's go ahead and rebuild it. All right, while this is building, it's gonna take probably around 1 minute. I'm gonna go grab a coffee. I need it really quick, and then I come back and we continue. Hello, I'm very in time. Okay, let's try now. Sign in, it's working, new event, everything is working, profile, and yes, it's working. So we see that we don't have any picture, but I can go ahead and press upload. I can select a picture from my gallery. It says uploading, and it's stored here. Now, if I'm gonna go ahead in the storage, we have avatar's bucket, and we have this image uploaded here. Perfect, so it worked. It worked. The last thing that we need to do is to take the information about that avatar and save it on the user profile. If I click save here, I don't think it's going to be actually saved. Or maybe it will. No, actually it is. Because back in our profile page, if I go into the application, profile. On upload, we are doing set avatar URL, and we're calling update profile with everything from the user and the avatar URL. Perfect. What I want to do here in this view is maybe do class name justify center. I want to align it in the middle, background color black, align or items center. Yes, I needed items center. Okay, looks good. And I think we can do exactly the same thing, but for, I mean, maybe not exactly the same thing, but similar thing, but now for events as well. So let me go ahead and commit these changes, git add, git commit -m, user avatar, git push, and let's see, do I want to copy paste this code? The easiest way is going to be copy pasting it, but it's not the best way because there is a lot of code that is shared here, like the same as picking the image, downloading it, and so on. Let's see what's the only difference that's dynamic. I think it's in the storage here, because now it's working with avatars. Maybe we can actually work with avatars. Because it has URL. You know what? For events, I'm still going to use the same bucket called avatars, and I'm just gonna upload them here. I don't think that's a big problem. If you'll want to have separate buckets for them, you're gonna create it and either create a new component like this, or send through the property with the bucket name that you're working with here, and just change here from avatars to the property, and later on here as well. But as I said, I'm gonna go ahead and a similar way how in our profile tab I'm rendering the custom avatar component, I'm gonna do the same in our tabs create, where we have everything here. Let's put the image at the top even before the title, or not. Yeah, maybe we can do it at the top. Let's import avatar here. The URL is going to be, well, when we create an event, there is no URL yet. So I'm going to remove it like this, or maybe say undefined or null. And whenever the avatar uploads the image, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set avatar URL here. So for that we need const. Let's call it image URL and set image URL. Use state like this. And I'm gonna call set image URL with a URL. I will not update any profiles. I'm just gonna store the value of the uploaded image in state. And then when we click on create event, I'm gonna say, hey, the image, how's it called? We need to insert. Let's see in the table how is it called? Image URI. So image underscore URI is image URL state value. Let's see if it's gonna work. I'm gonna upload here, I don't know, like this. I'm gonna say fireworks. Let's wait for it to be uploaded. And yeah, it's not working. You know why? Because we are not sending back the image. So here, instead of where is the avatar? Instead of null, let's send their image URL. Okay, it works. For the size, can it be 100%? No. I think size is pixels. What is it doing with size? Setting height and width. It's okay. You can adjust it later, but for now it's good. And if I do create event, let's see what's happening. It's creating the event with this image. And now we need to render this image properly. So we are uploading the image of the event correctly. Because if we look into the storage, we have this new image with fireworks. But the only difference is that in the database, we store a reference to it correctly. Come on. In the image. The only thing is different how we render it. Because now if I'm going to go to the event index, we are no longer going to simply store it like this, image event.imageURI. We need to call the same download functionality as we had in our avatar components. So in avatar, there is a download image. Let me see if that's the only way. So Supabase storage, because I believe there should be a get public URL. Yeah, something like this. But our bucket avatars, it's not public. Yeah, it's not public. That's why let's go ahead and implement also download the image when we want to render it. But we're gonna make it a bit more abstract, so it's gonna be easier for us to work with. For example, I'm gonna create a new component called supaimage.tsx. This image is going to be export default function supaimage, and it's going to render an image, right? Where the source URI is going to be fetched from the Supabase. So from avatar, we need the function download image. Let's bring it here. We need to import Supabase here. We need a state where we will store the image URI, set URI equal use state. It's going to be empty. When we load this image, when we download it, let's call set URI and store it in state. Later it's going to be used to be rendered here. We need to import image from React Native. And when do we need to download and what path to use? That's going to come through the properties. First, let's define the type supa image props. That's going to have a path of type string. So we can take it here as path from supa image props. And then in a use effect, when this path changes, we want to download the image locally. So when path changes, call download image path. If there is a path actually. Now let's try to use this super image in our create function. Not in the create, but in the event index on the event details page. So instead of the image here, I'm going to render super image where the path is going to be equal to event.imageURI, the name that we stored in the database, image URI. We need to import it from components. Now, if I'm gonna go to the fireworks, it's not working because let's also send there the class name. And in the super image, we're gonna receive a class name and we're gonna pass it down. Class name. Let's pass it down here to the image. Okay, it's working. Let's go. So now I can go back and remove a local image from here and leave only the Supabase image that is loaded from Supabase from our cloud storage. And here it says source URI should not be an empty string. That's also coming from Supabase here when we are trying to render an image before it is actually downloaded. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do if there is no image, if there is no URI, I'll return a simple view with the same class name to take the same sizes. But I'm gonna add there maybe like a background color or something like that. Maybe big G slate like this. So for example, if we never call download path and reload, we should be able to see how it will look when the image was not downloaded. It's gonna look like this. And after it is finished downloading it locally, it's gonna look like this because it's gonna render in an image component. Perfect. And if there is no image, it's gonna be like this. And the last step is to use the same super image inside our list. So in the components, event list item, instead of an image, let's use super image. Instead of source, we're gonna give their path equal to event image URI. And in this case, I think we can conditionally render it only if there is a URI. Sorry. If there is a URI, render it. Otherwise, don't even render that one. So if I scroll down, here we have it. Perfect. Let's go ahead and commit these changes. Event images with Supabase storage. Post up. 1 second, guys. All right, so how is it going? Still following along? Let's see our plan, because we are almost 2 hours in. And what we have done so far is we have the create events form. We have a storage for avatars and for event images. And the next step is going to be Geo Queries. Thank you. What are Geo Queries? Well, imagine the actual Meetup application. A global application with events all over the world. Whenever I query the events at the moment, if I look in the application tabs index, what I'm doing currently is I'm querying simply all the events. Well, in a production application, there might be millions of events. So you don't want to query all of them. What you want to do is you want to query events that are relevant to you. And in this scenario, events that are relevant to you are specifically events that are close to you in location. So if I'm in Spain, I'm not interested in events that are happening in New York. That's why I need to say that, hey, give me events that are in the 20 kilometers from me. And then Supabase needs to filter them out and give me only those events that are in that radius. How we can do that? For that, there is a PostGis extension. And because Supabase is built on PostGis, it supports these extensions and we can use it. So the extension that is responsible for managing easier geodata is called PostGis. And let's have a look at what it does and how we can use it. So with this, we can sort our data by geographic location, get data within certain geographic boundaries, and also do a lot more. While you may be able to store simple latitude and longitude coordinates as a set of decimal, it does not scale very well because when you try to query through a large data set, you cannot properly get the distance. With PostGis, there is a special data type that is efficient and it's also indexable for high scalability. The additional data types includes a point, a polygon, and a line string. By installing this PostGis, we're going to have additional data types to work with in our database. Let's go ahead and see what we have to do to use this extension. First, we need to enable it. So to get started with PostGis by enabling it in your Supabase dashboard. Let's go to the dashboard, extension, search for PostGis. In the confirmation prop, create a new schema and name it GIS. Okay, let's do that. In our project, let's go to database, let's go to extensions, let's search here PostGis. This is the one that I'm looking for. Let's enable it and select a schema. It's going to be under extensions, enable extension. Did I do it correctly? Probably not. In the confirmation pro, create a new schema and name it GIS. I did it on extensions. Let's disable it. Hopefully I'm not gonna mess anything. Let's do PostGis. Here I need to say create a new schema, and let's call it gis enable. Perfect. Now that we are ready to get started with PostGis, let's create a table and see how we can utilize for some typical use cases. Restaurant searching application for us is going to be events. Each row represents a restaurant stored in a location column. So the location in their case is a geography, is of type geography point. Okay, so the first step is going to be to go to our table editor, and for the events we need to store the location, the geography point location that we just enabled. So let's go ahead and try to edit the table and see if we can add a new column here, location of type geometry. PostGis types. The type represents special features with planar coordinates. Geometry, geography. What are they using? We are using geography point. Geography. The type representing special features with geocoding. Is it this one? I don't know exactly which one to select here, because in this example we are using the geography point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open ChatGPT, and we'll work with ChatGPT to create an update table. So let's do it this way. I'm going to copy the way they are creating a table. I am using PostGis, or I just enabled PostGis, and I want to update a table called events and add a location type similar to this example. Write the update table SQL statement. Look, hopefully you can see as well. So that's what I asked ChatGPT, and we see to update events, alter table public events, add column location geography point. If you also want to ensure that the location field is not null. No, let's leave it as null, because maybe you have like an online event and so on. So let's just copy this alter table public events, add column location geography point. Let's go to our project. Let's go to SQL editor and paste this one in the editor and do run. The location already exists. Yeah, because we have location there as a string. So let's call it location point. Location point. Let's do run. Type geography does not exist. Type geography does not exist. Why? Public restaurants. That's interesting. Type geography does not exist. I get this error. Maybe when I was extensions, PostGis, installed on Gis schema. Should it be actually on extensions? Let's try again. Location point. Okay, it works. So if I go now to the events and scroll, I see a location point of type geography. And if I do edit table, I'm going to show you, yeah, it's of type geography. It's simply geography. So most probably I should have just simply selected geography here and it would have worked without going through the SQL part. Okay, good. Let's go ahead and see what's next. The next we can set a spatial index on the location table, and that's going to speed up our queries. So I'm gonna put it in the SQL editor. Let's do create index, not restaurants geo-index, but events geo-index on the public.events using gist, not location, but location underscore point. Make sure to do these changes. Now let's run. The event was created. Now the queries will be, the table is going to be indexed on that column, and the queries are going to be much faster. Inserting data. You can insert geography data through the SQL or through the API. If we do through SQL, that's going to be st_point, but I'm going to do it through the JavaScript. So the location should be represented like this. Location, it's a point with latitude and longitude. So in our case, when we create, for example, the event, let's go ahead in our tabs create. Here, the location underscore point is going to be this type of string. So let's try to create one in, I don't know, close to me. Somewhere here. And that's 41.3 and 2.1. Do you know which one goes where? I don't know. 41.3 and 2.1. 2.1. Now, if I'm going to create the event, let's call it, yeah, Barcelona 1. And let's do create. Okay, it was created. Now if I'm gonna go into the table, let's see in the events, the Barcelona 1, what information does it have? If I scroll down, we see that the location point has some data. And you might think that this is wrong, but actually that's exactly the structure or how the geography point is stored as. So it's a encoded latitude and longitude together into one single number that now we can search with. And the way we search with is the order you pass the latitude, longitude comes first, and it's because longitude represents the x of a location. Another thing to watch for is when inserting data from a client library, there is no comma between the two values. It's a space. Yes, we see the location, and we can query the restaurants, or in our case, events. But it will return the location column in the format we see above. So how is this format going to help us? Well, we can use database functions and some specific PostGis functions to convert it back to latitude and longitude, to work with them, and also to order by distance using these operators. So with this operator, a two-dimensional distance between two geometries, and will utilize the spatial index when used within order by. So the problem is that, yeah, now we can use these kind of operators to get the distance and to sort based on the distance. The problem is that we cannot do that right away through the Supabase API when querying the events. We can do that only like in the SQL part. The good thing is that with Postgres, we can create database functions. These are functions that are run on the database layer. So here is an example of a database function called nearby restaurants that receives two parameters, latitude and longitude. And what they do is they query information from the table restaurants, and they order by location using this property, using this distance between points property. So let's go ahead and copy this code, go into our SQL editor, paste it here, but don't press enter yet because we still have to change a lot of things here. Can I close this one? I don't think so. So create or replace function. Let's call it nearby events. We're gonna receive a latitude and longitude, and we need to return a table ID name. Well, here I'm gonna have to actually open my table editor for events and go ahead and see all the fields that we have. So it's ID, then created at. So I'm gonna put here created at with a type public dot, it shouldn't be restaurants, it should be events, public dot event. I'm gonna put them all from the new line, so it's gonna be easier for us to see. Here we specify what fields are we going to return. So ID is going to be the same type as the ID of our events table. Created at as well, like this. Then we don't have a name, we have a title there. So it's going to be public.events.title percentage type. There is no name here, I'm gonna delete it. What other fields we have there? We have description. Let's do the same. Description. I'm gonna copy this one and say, instead of type, description. Then we have date. I'm gonna actually first copy them, the fields, date, location, image URI, user ID, and that's it. Now I'm going to paste this one in all of these places, and then replace this part with this name. So date goes here, location goes here, image URI, user ID, like this. Okay, this looks a bit technical, but it's just a lot of paying attention and replacing everything. We are basically recreating the same table as a return type for the new table that we're going to return from this function. Okay, so besides the normal fields that we have in the table, we're also going to return the latitude of that table, because at the moment the latitude and longitude is encoded in this location point. So we have latitude, we have longitude, and we have distance meters. We're going to return the distance in meters from the latitude and longitude that this function will receive. Let's see how it's going to work. So select, ID, name, we need ID, then created at, then title instead of name, then we have description, then we have date, then we have location, so it's a lot, image URI, and user ID. Put comma after all of these fields. And we see how it's adding one more column called latitude, which is this one, by calling the st_y. If we look into the documentation, st_y is how we can transform from this structure to latitude and longitude. So the first one, latitude, is going to work. Here we need to take not location, but location underscore point. And the second one as well, underscore point. Then we are calculating the distance between location underscore point towards a new point that we create from longitude and latitude that was received here through properties. This field, we're going to call it distance in meters. Now we specify what table we're working with. So in our case, that's events. And then order by, not location, but location underscore point. And this operation is, if we look here, is the distance operation. The distance towards the point that we create from latitude and longitude. And I believe that's everything that we need. Let's hope that we didn't make any mistakes. Double check everything that you see here, and let's do run. We see that location here, syntax near. We forgot the comma. That's what I forgot here. Run. Return type, final statement, return time step with time zone instead of big int at column 2. ID created at, here. Public events created at. Run. Okay, now it works successfully. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna copy this code. Let's tell beautify this code, and I'm gonna provide it to you as well. Hopefully ChatGPT is not gonna do any errors here. I can actually test it out again by putting it here, run. Okay, it worked. And I'm going to add it to here, Geo Queries. One of the steps here is going to be how's it called? Nearby events. Nearby events database function. SQL. Okay guys, so that means that now on our database layer, if I go to the functions, we should see a new function called nearby events that we can call from our application by using supabase.rpc and providing their latitude and longitude. Let's try to do that. And we're gonna do that where? We're gonna do that in the main page, where in the tabs index, instead of fetching all the events, fetch, let's call this function all events. I'm going to actually create a new function, fetch nearby events equal async. So we're gonna get the data and error from supabase.rpc remote procedure call. We're calling a remote function called nearby underscore events, and we have to send here some data like latitude and longitude. Let's go ahead and give another point also here in Barcelona, but a different one. So it's going to be this one. I'm gonna give it here. And this one here. And let's see the data that we receive. And let's also see the console log error. We never call the fetch nearby events. I'm going to do here in the use effect. And I'm going to reload the application. Now it should invoke that function, and we see search for the function public nearby event. It's nearby events. And now we see some data. That's good. Let's go ahead and do a JSON.stringify data null 2 to see it in a better format. And we see that this information has the same ID, created a title and so on, but it also has 3 more fields: latitude, longitude, and distance in meter. For the events that do not have a latitude and longitude, the distance in meters is null. But I'm interested in one event where distance in meter is not null, because we have only one event that actually has a location. Here it is. And we see that for that one, it's 241. And the distance is quite far. I think, guys, explain me which one is which. Barcelona, latitude, longitude. So this one is north, that means it's y-axis. That means, if I'm gonna go here, the order is latitude. Longitude comes first. Okay, longitude comes first because the longitude represents the x-axis. So that means that x is east-west, which means that it should be, when we create, the x is the first one, and this one is here. Let's create a new event. Because when we query latitude, I'm already lost. Longitude is the x. 2 is longitude. Longitude 2, correct. Now let's create an event. Barcelona 2. And if I go here and reload, we should see the Barcelona 2. Let's search Barcelona 2. The distance in meter is 9,000, which is 9 kilometers, which is very realistic. Because if I put here 41.3 and here 42.1 and search again, in this case, the distance is 0 because it's exactly the same location, my location and the location of the event. So that's perfect, amazing. What I can do now is also showcase or better set the events in state from data. We have new things in the Supabase, so I'll have to go ahead and regenerate the types by running npx supabase gen types, the same command that we ran before. And this is supposed to regenerate the types, and now we should be able to see that, hey, there is this function like this, perfect. And does it know what's the response? Yes, it actually knows. So set events doesn't like, we didn't specify the type of this event. It's event array. And the event is coming from, where is it coming from? Well, it should be types, db, event. No, it should be imported. Import event from types. Okay, now it's a type. But in this case, it's actually an event with locations and so on. So will I be able to access database, the return type, event, nearby event, nearby event? Does it have something related to functions? Functions, the function nearby events, and returns. Let's say what it returns. Okay, that's good, because now I can import this one here, nearby event. I'll comment out the fetch all events, but this one, okay, if it's not null. So if data doesn't really like it, but I don't know why. Length, pop, push, concat, and 35 more. Data is an array. Here, it's also an array. I think everything should be okay. And what I can do now with it is go ahead here in the components, event list item, and where we render the how many people are going, number of attendees, I'll render here I'll go here dot in the middle and I'll copy this dot in the middle to render it like this and separate the how many meters away. So I will take event dot meters. Is it meters? I'm gonna look here. Dist meters. Meters from you. Let's also divide it by 1000 and say kilometers. Sorry for all the subscribers from USA. I'm gonna also do math.floor. So this is 10 kilometers away. The other one is very far because I reversed the longitude and latitude. And the rest are, we do not have like the distance in meters because we do not have a location. So it says 0 kilometers away. So that's our nearby searches. And possibility of calculating the distance between points. I also want to showcase how to get the user's location. For that, I'm gonna use Expo location. Let's go ahead and check the documentation. First, install Expo location. You know what? Let me do that. I want to do npx Supabase db or pool. How is it called? Supabase db. History. Supabase. npx Supabase db pool linked. To pull all the changes from the linked here so that you can recreate it at any point in time. For that, we need Docker desktop. Hello, Rohit. What exactly is the bottleneck? What optimization issues are you encountering? That would help me a lot. Does Supabase work with React Native CLI? Yes, it works. Okay. Okay, then we're gonna go into the location. Now let me see what else is possible here with the distance. Because we have this function to order by distance. And it goes from the closest one to the furthest away. If I will add This is an interesting point, finding all data points within a bounding box. If we manage to implement maps, which hopefully we do, we might need this function to find data points in a bounding box. And that basically will take 4 values: minimum latitude and longitude and maximum latitude and longitude. And then using this set, we are creating a box and we are filtering only to receive events in an area that we are looking at. Okay, so git status, git add, git commit. Geo queries with PostGis and git push origin main. Perfect. Let's go ahead and implement the user location so that we can fetch nearby events to the user, not to the some hard-coded things. So first I'm going to install Expo location. Then we need to configure the location properties through the plugins. I'm going to add it, copy it from here into our application JSON. Types app JSON. We need here the location. And then we're going to be able to use it, but we have to rebuild our project. So yeah, let's import this. Where do we need the location? We need it in our event index, not event index, in tabs index. Here is going to, we're going to need a location. And if I will reload the application, it should fail. It didn't fail yet. We're going to have a location in state. So let's add this state variable for location. And we're going to copy this use effect. Location request permission. So what it does, it first asks for permission. If it's not granted, instead of set error message, let's do alert.alert. Let's import alert from React Native. But if user has given permissions, what we're going to do is we're going to get current position and we're going to store it in state. Set location. Because we're using TypeScript, it needs here the type location object from Expo location or null. Now we're going to use this location information in the fetch nearby events. Location dot coordinates dot latitude and location dot coordinates dot longitude. Now the thing is that we're gonna call fetch nearby events only after the location has been selected. So I'm gonna give here, I'm gonna put the location as a dependency of this use effect so that we only call it, and we always call it when location changes, but we're gonna check here if location exists, only then call this fetch. And probably to double check it in the fetch nearby events, I'm gonna also say if there is no location, we're gonna return. And now it should work based on the location from the device, but I need to rebuild it, so let's do that. npx expo run expo pre-build. I'm not going to do clean. Let's try it like this first. Take a break. No breaks. Oh, we still have, I have a lot of features planned yet. We are doing Geo Queries and I really want to show you the maps. And we are 2.5 hours in. We have one more 1.5 hours. I hope we're going to manage it. npx expo, let's do npx expo run iOS. Okay. Okay, it's running. It still doesn't say it. npm npx npm start. Maybe dash clear and switch to development build and then reload. Okay, what it needs is a pre-built clean. It's not ready yet, but let me try. Okay, it's almost done. It's almost done. Yes. Let's log in. What's that? So let's do a console log location to see what's happening there. Reload. Is the status not coming here? Fetch location. Are you stopping here? What? It doesn't come here? but it doesn't go here as well. So it stops here. Oh no, 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 cancel, cancel, please. Request foreground permission, and it's not showing. Request foreground permission. It's not showing. Let's go to features, location, and let's do custom location. Okay. So why is it hanging? Probably it's about real device. Is it working on, it should work on simulators. Should we try the hook instead? Location.use. Status and request permission. It doesn't show it. Why? Console log status. Status is, can ask again, true. Okay, so let's do it like this. We're going to we're not gonna do it through this one, but we're gonna do request permissions. Hello, Andy. Thank you very much. Why it's not? Going crazy here. Maybe because the problem is only for the pop-up to request permissions. So let me see if I can go to applications to where is the meetup location. Let's do always. Now if I'm gonna go here, okay, now as you can see, I have problems with the pop-up. It doesn't show me when I call request permissions, but after I give it manually, we have access to it and we can get access to the latitude and longitude. And now we see that I'm actually 13 kilometers away from Barcelona to the event, this one, exactly around there. And if I go ahead through the features of my simulator and change this one to 2.15 and then reload, we should see a different distance, 12 kilometers. Perfect. So I'm gonna remove these console logs and let me think if this is the correct approach. Probably there should be two use effects. One that manages the status, and here if status dot granted, if status exists and status is not granted, and we can ask again, only then call the request permissions. Then here it's where we're gonna fetch the permissions. So I'm no longer going to request permissions. That's gonna happen at the top. I'm gonna do, yeah, if status.granted return. If it's granted, I'm going to get the location and set it in state. Yes, that should work. That is supposed to work. I added the hook, use effect, request foregoing permission, subscription. So Andrei, you are also subscribing to the location change. That would be nice, but I think it's unnecessary for this use case. Like when you search, maybe later on when we show, like if you want to go to an event, how close it is to you, maybe. But yeah, the only problem I have here is that get current request permission is not displaying the pop-up. Everything else is working. So I'm pretty sure like on a physical device it's gonna work. That's why I'm gonna go ahead and do git add, git commit -m, use user location, use user location using Expo location. Sorry for. Okay, so we have user location, perfect. Location. Okay. Next step is around maps, and we have around 1 hour and 15 minutes. We need to display events on a map. For that, we can either use MapBox or Google Maps, depending on your preferences. You can compare with both. Google Maps is provided by Google. MapBox is way more configurable. And we use MapBox in this tutorial if you're interested.
What's up, notjust?
In the building a scooter application. And actually, it was pretty cool to use it there. So I think that we are going to try to use MapBox features in this tutorial. And before we actually integrate maps, you know what I'm gonna try to use? Let's go to MapBox. I'm gonna first use an API from MapBox to autofill addresses. Because when we create an event, at the moment, for the location, we are hard coding the location. But I want to actually allow the user to search the location and then take automatically the latitude and longitude. I don't want to put two fields like latitude and longitude, because that would theoretically work, but it's not very user-friendly to ask the user for latitude and longitude of a location. So I'd rather allow him to do a search and then select the location and automatically get the latitude and longitude. Okay, how we're gonna do that? We're gonna do that using MapBox. And with MapBox, you need an account. I think I should have one because we worked with MapBox. Yes, it has a free tier. MapBox is not sponsoring the video, so you're free to choose anything else you want. But yeah, we have like a free tier, I guess. Yeah. Free. And what we're gonna use is, let's go into developers. We're gonna go to search and see some solutions for search. Solutions for search. There is a JavaScript library. There is mobile SDKs for iOS and Android, which would be nice if we would have a React Native library that uses these two, that combines them together. But because there are solutions, but they're not, I'm not sure if how well supported they are. For that reason, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna try, because this is something new for me as well. We're gonna try to interact directly with the API. And there is this geocoding search box. Search for addresses and points of interest. Let's go to the API documentation. And this is the link. I'm gonna also add it here under maps, or before maps or after maps. Let's do address autocomplete with MapBox. I'm gonna add here the resource that we're gonna try to integrate with. So this is the easiest way to add the interactive location search to connected cars, mobility, delivery application, and more. The search box supports interactive location search or standalone queries to search addresses, places, and points of interest. Let's open the playground and see how it works. For example, if I'm gonna search here New York Central Park, it's going to give me a response that we see here, and this is a visualized way of seeing the response. And then we can say, okay, I need the first one, and the first one, if we see it, should probably have also a latitude and longitude. Does it? It has distance. But does it have latitude and longitude? I don't see it. Proximity. To be biased around the location, that's nice. Filter by bounding box, location from which to calculate distance, ETA, limit. So it's doing another request here, you see. After it gets that location, it's fetching details. Oh, one is suggest, the first one is suggest, and the next one is retrieve. To get suggested results, when the user selects a suggestion, its MapBox ID is sent to retrieve to get the full data. Okay, it has two things. One, to get autocomplete suggestions, and then after we select one, we get retrieve to get the full details, which will then include geometric coordinates like latitude and longitude. Okay, perfect. So now our goal is to go ahead and implement these queries. Let's think about first the UI of how we're gonna do that. The UI, how we're gonna do that. Well, what's gonna be the easiest way? To create a new page, to do it in the same page. Let's go into the create. And here after the text, let's create a new component because it's going to have a lot of code. So I would rather have it in a separate component in order not to confuse you a lot. Let's create a new file in the components, address autocomplete.tsx, export default function address autocomplete, and it's going to be a view that starts with a text input, placeholder, location. Let's make sure to import the view as well. And let's render this address autocomplete in the create after the date picker here. Address autocomplete, we import it from components address. Export default function. What's going on? Why I don't like it? Oh, text input should be imported from here. Now if I go here, we have a location input. Perfect. I'm going to probably take the same class of our text input here. Let's put it like this. Okay, now I have it. So here is where the user will start typing, and then he should see some recommendations. So let's say, well, first of all, this is going to be input set input. And we're gonna send it to the value. We're gonna bind it to the text input and set on change text is going to be set input. So now as I type, we are storing it here. Then we're gonna send a request to MapBox, and in response we're gonna get a list of addresses. For example, we're gonna get suggested locations or suggestions. Use state, it's going to be initially empty array, but we can probably go ahead in the suggest, copy this response and work with something like this, for example. Look, we're gonna also need in the utils, let's create here autocomplete address autocomplete.ts. This is where we're going to implement the low-level logic of functions. For example, get suggestions based on an input string. And at the moment, I'm going to simply return the dummy data that I copied from this documentation here. I'm not implementing yet the proper fetch, but I'm going to do that in a second. Now I can call this get suggestions in my address autocomplete when, for example, we change the input. Maybe that's going to be too often, so for that reason, I might add here under the text input a search icon, or should we debounce? Let's do a search icon. Expo vector icons. Let's do search. Let's do this one. And let's put it after the text input and import this from vector icons. Now it should be here. I'm gonna put them into a view that has a class name flex row. The first text input is gonna get a flex1 to take the whole space. The parent is gonna get a gap 3 and items center. Perfect. This one is going to get, I don't know, something like that. It's okay. But when we call on press search, and this search is going to be a function that will call the things that get suggestions from the utils. Here we need to send the input that the user is writing, and back we're gonna get that list of suggestions. What we can do is we can do set suggestions with data dot suggestions. Maybe. So data dot suggestions is an array. Now that we have these answers here, we need to render them on the screen. So I'm gonna go ahead and render them here in a flat list from React Native, the suggested items. So the data is gonna be suggestions and render item. It's gonna get an item and it's going to return a view that has a text and the text is going to be item dot, let's see, what do we want to say? Name, or maybe place formatted. I don't know, what are they showcasing here when I do New York Central? This is probably the name. and where is full address? And place formatted. Okay, so this is name, and below it there is a text with item dot place formatted. We need to import text from React Native. And now if I'm gonna simply press on this button, we should see these items below. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna style them a bit. For example, I'm gonna add padding 2 to that one. Let's do border. And here into the column or content container style, if I do gap 5, it's gonna add some spacing there. But the whole page should be scrollable, so we can move there. How to better show them? I think it's not going to be in a flat list. I think it's going to be simply mapping over them like this. So we have suggestions.map, and for every item, we're going to render it like this. Then we need to put them inside a view. What it doesn't like? What an unexpected token. Oh, here in the render item. I needed here class name gap 3, 2. So if I go here and search, okay, I see them. Now I can go ahead in the create tabs, create, and make from this view a scroll view. From the top view, I'll make a scroll view. So now if I go here and press search, okay, it works. The only thing is that now all of this stuff like gap 3 should be applied to, I'm gonna simply come back to a view. And put the scroll view on top of it. Okay, now it works, and the scroll view itself needs content container class name flex1. Okay, so now if I do search, I see some stuff here. What if I do it like this? Okay, so it's not on the content flex one, but on the actual view. So now if I do reload, come here, it's okay. It's not perfect, but it's something. When we see the suggestions, later we can press on one of it, and when that is happening, and when we press on one of these items, we need to give it a key as well, item dot name. So when we do that, this should be a pressable, because we should allow the user to press on one of these items. On press set selected location with the item. Now let's go ahead and track which of these suggestion was selected. Selected location set selected location. Use state. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say use effect. Or let's create a function, actually better. Let's create a function on suggestion click. It's going to get the item or the suggestion. And what's going to do with it is first it's going to set it as selected. Selected location. It's also going to set the input to display the location name. So suggestion dot, I think we worked with formatted or place formatted. And that's it. That's it for now. Let's call this function when we press on one of it, like this. So now if I go here and say, okay, search, then select this one, it's going to display here. And probably I can do set suggestions with empty string. So if I do like this, oh, if I select one of these, it's going to select it and close our suggestions. If I'm going to search again and select another one, maybe here name we should do. So Central Park, like this one or this one and so on. Okay, that's the first step. But at this point, if we look into this data, we still do not have the latitude and longitude. For that, we're gonna have to send a request to the retrieve. And the retrieve expects the MapBox ID. So this is get suggestions. Then we're gonna have another function called export const get or retrieve details. This is going to have an ID as a string, and it will return something like this. Let's call it, let's copy it. Oh, why it's not copying? So in the raw format, like this, Okay. So this call is going to give us the geometry with the coordinates and all of our stuff like feature type and so on. Okay, let's go ahead here and say details, right? We need to get the details. So after we click that, we need to do const details equal to retrieve details based on suggestion dot, I think it's MapBox ID, but we can look here at the top, MapBox ID. This is going to be a async function, so I can already do a wait here. And after we get these details, what do we need to do with them? Do we need to store them in state? Well, that depends if we actually need those details here, but I don't think we need the details here. What we need is we need to send them up. So we need to say on selected is going to be a callback function that we are going to call here on selected with details. Now this on selected, we are going to need it into the create because we are going to send it to our address autocomplete as on selected location, and let's do console.log location. So here, if I go ahead and search for something, do Central Park, we're gonna see this information with features and with geometry and so on. And we just need to get the latitude and longitude because that's, or maybe we can store it completely in state. Location set location equal use state null. What we're gonna do is whenever we get that from autocomplete, we're gonna store it in state. So let's do set location with location. And when we save in our database, when we insert the event in the location, we need in the location point, we need here the longitude and then latitude, I think. So how do we get that? Const longitude equal to something and const latitude equal to something. We're going to take it from location. We need to do dot something. Let's look at the structure by looking at what our get retrieve details is going to give. It's going to give a list of features. And why is it an array? I don't know, but it only has one item. So I'm going to go features at position 0 and then geometry and then coordinates. So location dot features at position 0 dot, I already forgot, geometry dot coordinate, and there is two things, this one and this one. So 40 probably is, I'm lost. Which one should I take? Position one is position 0, another one is position 1. I think longitude 41 should be the second one. So this is latitude 41. I guess so. I guess it's 0 and 1. And now we take this longitude and we put it here as a variable in this string. We take first long And then we take latitude. And what we can also do is save the name of a location here, because in our table we have that location field. And we're going to take it from location dot. Again, let's go ahead here and see. Let's do feature 0, then properties name, or yeah, probably name. So it's gonna be everything properties.name. Same as here, but instead of geometry, we're gonna do dot properties.name. Okay, let's give it a try. See if it's actually saved. ABC. Here, or let's say, yeah, New York party. Let's search, let's select Central Park, and let's create event. New York party, but for location, let's look in the database what happened there. Table editor, I'm very excited. Events, the last one, New York party. I'm interested in the field location, Central Park. Perfect. And location, I'm not sure if this is correct, but what I can do is go to the first page of all events and reload and see that New York party is 6,000 kilometers from you. Perfect, that means that it worked. And the last step to have like all of this address autocomplete working is going to be to implement this from dummy data to implement the actual queries. So it's not going to be too complicated because we have some, we're going to just call some fetch. So from the playground, first in the suggest, we see here some parameters. The first one is Q. This is the search, the text that we're searching. Then it's the language, access token, and these are optional parameters. You can give him a proximity to be closer to your location, which is super nice. You can filter by country, by types, and so on. So let's copy this get URL. I'm going to copy it from here. I'm gonna move it here. Let's do const response equal await, and we're gonna fetch this URL. This is a huge URL that we're gonna split into some stuff, but we already can do const JSON equal await response.json and see if it worked. Console.log JSON. Now if I press on this button, attribution, response ID, suggestions, that's what we need. So I'm gonna try to return this JSON, return JSON, and remove this dummy data that we have here. Now the only thing is that when we call this get suggestion, we need to make sure that we do await here. And this search is going to become async. Now let's see. If I do something like this, it works. And it's actually coming from MapBox now. But let's improve it a bit, or maybe I should do the same for the details. Yeah, let's do the same for the details. Retrieve MapBox ID, access token, and that's it. I'm gonna copy this URL. Let's do here, let's copy everything from previous function, delete the dummy data, make it async, and copy the URL for retrieve and replace it here to fetch it from there. Now if I press on this one, it still works, but it works now with these retrieve details. Let's go ahead and add variables and improve these URLs here. First of all, let's extract this part of the API URL to a variable, API base URL is equal to this part, including v1. Now I'm going to use a template string in both cases. And at the beginning, I'm gonna simply replace with API base URL, and the same thing here instead of v1. Now the query that we send here is going to look, after the question mark is where variables go. The first one is Q. This is the query that we are writing. So I'm gonna put here the input. Just like that, I can already search for something else. For example, for Washington. If I search, we see different answers. I'm wondering if I will do Washington and then DC, like more languages. Will it automatically encode this to a URL format? Hopefully it does, because it kind of works. Paris, if I do Paris, is France, but Paris, New York, will it? Yes, it takes everything. Perfect. Language, English, proximity. This is something that I'm not going to give for now, but you can send here the location of the user, and that's going to adjust how the search is happening. So I'm gonna leave it like this, which is not very good, but it's okay. Then we need this is a session token and access token. Do we need both of them? Auto-generated. What if we don't have a session token? Here I'm gonna try to remove the session token. And leave only access. Session token is required. How do you get it? Let's see in the dashboard tokens. I have my token here. This is the access token. Oh, token scope, if an API token scope. Access token. Okay, for access tokens, it's clear. So the access token, we're gonna take it from our dashboard under tokens. We're gonna copy it from here, and let's store it in an environment variable in this file. Let's call it Expo public MapBox token equal to this one. Now I'm gonna take this name and in autocomplete, let's do const access token equal to process.env and then the name Expo public MapBox token. Now I can take this one and replace where we see access token here. Instead of a hard-coded one, I'm gonna replace it with the access token like this. And in the second call, same way. Let's see if it still works. I'm gonna do new search, map of undefined. I need to restart my server to take in consideration the new environment variables. And I will reload. And here, if I do Barcelona search, I see it, perfect. That's good. But what about the session token? Session token API docs. Access token. A customer provided session token value which groups a series of requests together for billing purposes. UUIDs recommended. For more information, how to use session token to group search API calls into one session, see the session-based pricing. I think this is a way to reduce the bills. Because if a user is doing the same request multiple times, it's going to be into the same session. A search session is a series of search API calls bundled together for billing purposes. Make a call followed by a retrieve with common session. Make 50 successful. So a suggest and a retrieve is going to be the same call, consider the same call for billing. So we can use the Supabase. Where is it? Autocomplete. I think we can use from Supabase the session use of. So there is session dot, what can we get from session? Session dot access token. dot user dot yeah, I think we're gonna use access token here from here. So let's go ahead and send this session token to get sessions. Access token. And same thing here. We're gonna use this access token of a user in our autocomplete session token string. We're gonna use it here instead of this value. Let's see if it's gonna work. I'm gonna do the same for the second one. Now, if I say Barcelona, search, it works. This one probably also works. So now I can search for anything here, right? If I'll do Barcelona tag something, tag hub, search, social hub, let's do, I don't know, impact hub, and do event at impact hub, create event. And if I go back to our database, events, and look for the event called event at impact hub, we see that the title, we see the location, it's Central Park. That's not good. Let's see once again. Impact. It's still New York. Create. Location is not correct. Why? Let's double check that. Let's see in the create, we get it from location. Location is coming from here. Set location. Okay, on selected. So backend address autocomplete. Let's see the details here. Console log details. Oh yeah. I know why. Because we are sending the MapBox ID, but in the address autocomplete we never inserted it in the URL. So this after the retrieve and before the question mark, this is where the ID should go. So now finally let's try another time. For example, Barcelona, search, select, title, second event or third event. Create. Okay. Now if I'm gonna go here, it should have a new location name that we can also display here on the details page. If I have time, we can definitely go ahead in the event index, After, let's do location. Impact hub. I don't need number of lines too. Okay, so it's displayed properly where it's happening. And now if I'm gonna go to the first page, reload, it's gonna say that, hey, the third event at Impact Hub, it's actually 3 kilometers away. And now here, nothing is dummy data. Everything is actually coming from the autocomplete using MapBox API, stored in the database, then calculating, filtered based on geolocation. Oh my God, that's a lot. And that is our, let's do git status. Autocomplete. With MapBox API. What about a model? Yeah, I think that the model would be better in that case. With the UI, you can definitely adjust it. Here, I don't know, London co-working. If I search, yeah, we see some items, but probably like a pop-up would be much better. I agree. But the functionality is here. You can go and you can get the inspiration and implement the same in your application. The important part is happening here, which is not actually that much. Like we are just fetching the MapBox here. We just need the token. I would encourage you to actually add user's location here to be more precise around like user location. So if you're looking for cafes or like a co-working, not to show like from New York, but to show you around you. So we have around 20 more minutes. And I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to integrate maps. But I really wanted to showcase how to do maps. So let me double check the source code to see what package we were using in that project for adding maps. And we were using, let's search MapBox. MapBox. And this MapBox is a module that has ported MapBox, the iOS and the Android native libraries to React Native. So when we run our application on iOS, it's actually using the MapBox. If we go to Maps, you see there are mobile clients for iOS and Android. And for React Native, what this library is doing, it's putting them together, these two, into one native library for iOS and Android. So let's see if we can do it in 20 minutes and add MapBox support to our application. So what do we need to do is, let's go into the installation instructions. Okay, so before installing MapBox, you'll need to get proper credentials, secret access token with download read scope for iOS and Android, and a public access token with PK. Let's do that. Let's press on this icon. Let's see. We need a secret token with download and read. I'm gonna go into our, I'm already super lost in everything here, but I'll close these ones, this one, this one, this one. So let's go to the tokens page. And we're going to create a token with name secret. And it's going to have download something, right? Downloads and reads. Downloads, read. Yes. Let's click create token. And here is our secret. Let's copy it and see what do we need to do with it. To configure our secret, I don't think I'm gonna do that. Let's see here for Expo. I'm gonna paste that secret somewhere. Let me open notes. And meanwhile, I'm gonna do npx expo install the MapBox. npx expo npx expo install rn maps. So to configure it, we're gonna use the config plugin. Here is where we're gonna put the secret token. And this is the plugin that we're gonna put. Let's go ahead in our plugins. Application.json under plugins. We're gonna put the React Native MapBox, and here is where we need to put the secret key. I'm gonna put it as a string, which is not recommended. I think you'll have to switch to a generated app.json, basically to app.js, and then use environment variable. But I don't have a lot of time here, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue by pre-building our project, Expo. Pre-build clean. I'm lagging. Oh, sorry. I hope that everything is good. Okay, it's pre-building, and in a second we're gonna rebuild our application, and let's look in the documentation. What are the next steps? No, don't need this one anymore. Using V11. Should we use V11? Did we use V11 in Lime? Let's see. Yeah, we actually used V11 in Lime, so let's try V11. I think it has better maps. Well, a lot of other things, but also some other maps. So under the maps here, after the token, I'm gonna do comma and put v11. And that means that I have to do it again. We have Expo locations. Stop for a second. Let's do location when in use permission. For the Expo location as well. And now we can pre-build. Okay, so that was the configurations. And next, adding a map. Set access token. This is probably going to be the public token, and then MapBox view. Where are we going to display the map? I think what we're going to do is under the events, we're going to have here the possibility of showing them as a list or on a map. And to do that, under the tabs, I'm going to create a new folder here called, let's call it index. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but that means that the index, which is now our events, is going to have two files. One of them is going to be map.tsx, and another one is going to be actually index. And the index is going to have its own layout, because without a layout, this index and map, they're simply going to become two separate tabs. So now in the layout, I'm gonna do export default function events tab layout. We're gonna return, let's return a stack for a second. So if I go to events here, if I do tabs, and reload, yeah, tab 1 has events, because in map we don't have yet anything. So let's do export default function events map view return let's return a view with class name bg red flex1. Let's import it from React Native and let's reload. Meanwhile, my application finished pre-building and I will rebuild it. npx expo run iOS. Now I have here two bottom tabs, but what I actually want is these to be top tabs. I want them to be top tabs. Expo Router top tabs. So under advanced, let's do, where is the documentation for custom tabs, custom navigators? For example, drawer. Look, it's gonna look very weird, but for now it's going to be like this. Trust me. It's still building. Maybe because it's still building, but I'm gonna have to build it again. Look here, events. Let's do. I'm gonna need the header right, and I'm gonna say header shown false. And here in the layout, I'm gonna say stack.screen name index. Options, I'm going to header right. I'm gonna render there an icon. Expo icons, map, and from vector icons. And whenever we press on it, I'm gonna put it inside a link. I am going to redirect to tabs map. So if I press here, I'm gonna go here, and then I come back to events. So I think this is a nice one. I'm still on the events, but there, okay, nice. So in the index, or maybe we can even call it events. Can I do events? And then in the layout, target here events. Will it work? It still needs an index, so I'm gonna create the index.tsx, export default function, index, return, redirect, href, events. Let's try again. Something is not right. Let me restart the server. What happened there? Okay, it's working. So now if I go here, it should be, yeah, in the layout, should be tabs slash events slash map. Perfect. All right, so let's see if we can render a map here. So I'm gonna go into the map and back into the documentation on how to use it. I'm gonna have to import and set the token at the top. This is our access token, and I think it shouldn't be the secret token, it should be the public token. So I'm gonna take it from process.env. We already have there the MapBox token. And then I can simply render it like this inside this view. Styles do not exist. Map. Okay, so we already have a map. Does it have a class name? Let's see if it's gonna work with Tailwind. W full. And Heightful. Heightful doesn't work. Maybe flex one. Okay, here it is. Here is the MapBox. Perfect. We are very close. We have a MapBox. The next step is going to be to display points of interest, basically events on the map. For that, I'm not sure. Let's see, marker view. If we're gonna manage to do it in time. Because it's not that straightforward, I would go here into the example that we had before. We have a map. The map has a camera and a location puck. Let's try to add that inside the map view. Let's expand it like this and add the camera. From MapBox, let's do it like this. Location puck, map view. So it's not going to be MapBox anymore. So yeah, it shows the location puck, like where I'm located. It shows the camera, perfect, with the specific zoom level. And then show markers. We have scooter markers, a component that displays markers. Scooter markers is points. So it's a shape source with points, then it uses clustering and symbol layers. Okay, I'm gonna try to only take like things that we need here. So points is a list of scooter longitude and latitude. But first we need here the list of events. The list of events that we have in the index. How did we get them? Events, location, status. I'm going to export all the logic of fetching nearby events to a separate file because it's a lot of logic of getting location and so on, and I don't want to duplicate it. I would rather create a new file here, folder hooks, and let's create here use nearby events.tsx and export const use nearby events, which is going to be a custom hook. So in this custom hook, I'm going to move all the logic from my events page of getting the events, getting the location, working with them, and so on. Everything that we see here, move to the events. We need to make sure to import React, use state, nearby events, location, like this, where is everything as location. What else? Supabase from utils, and that's it. Now the thing that this hook is going to give us back is the list of events. So that's everything it does. It returns events. So let's go ahead back in our events page and say, hey, const events, or like this, const events equal use nearby events from our hook. Now this is working because we moved all the logic in that hook. It gives us back the events, but we can copy it. We can clean up actually here some things. And we can copy these events and move to the map and also take these events. Now if I'm going to go to the map, I'm going to have that events if I import them here. So I can do a console log events, and we're going to see them in the logs. If I go to the map, here they are. Now from that events, we need a list of points. So let's go ahead and create const points. This is going to be created from the events.map, and for every event we are going to return an object, not an object but a point like this. So it's going to be a point that we will import from MapBox, right? Let's see, MapBox, does it have a point? No, it doesn't. Where did we get the point from? It's from turf helpers. Oh, wow. Let's see if we have them. So yeah, a point from event.longitude, which it has, and event.latitude, which it has. And there we can even do event. Now that we have these points, what we can do is create a shape source, basically provide a list of points, a list of data. Let's see how to do it. We're going to do it also in the map view here. Render the shape source. The idea is going to be events. Let's not cluster them yet. And the shape is going to be a feature collection from our points. And we don't need the onPress event yet. Now the shape source is just data. Here we need to render points. Here, based on the data that we provided for shape points, imported from map view, we need to render points. And the point that we're going to render is either a circle, either a layer, either something. Here I'm using a symbol layer, an icon. Let's try it like this. Let's try to render it like this with a symbol layer imported from MapBox. This is going to be events icon. We don't need any filtering. Icon image called pin, icon size, icon okay. Now coordinates must be numbers. Oh, we need to first .filter the events that have location. So event, only keep it if event has long, and event.latitude, because some of them they do not have location. Okay, now it works. And the last step is to provide the pin image that we're gonna render. So under the symbol layer, we provide these images with a pin. First, we need to import images from here. And now we need to provide the pin that we want to render from, for example, assets. Let's do Let me maybe do, instead of pin, I cannot find circle layer. So on the map, instead of a symbols with images, I'm rather gonna do circles. And circle layer ID events. I don't need this one, I don't need this one. Yeah, that's good. Now if I'm gonna go here, I hope to see some circles on the map. Here it is. Here is the circle of the event. Here is another one. And if I'm gonna scroll up, we should also have some events in New York. Here it is, event in the New York. But we can zoom in, click on it, and you can also implement like click and display like more details, or even go to that event. Maybe you can do that here on press. You're gonna get the event. And if I do console log event, what's happening? If I press, we have coordinates. Boom, we have features, geometry, geometry, geometry. It should also have what? JSON.stringify. So if I click, look, it has point, but it has also properties event because we attached it here. So I can do event.properties.event. So if I do click now, properties, isn't it properties? Properties. How is it? Okay. Features. What? No. Something is not right. On press event. Why it has? Oh, because there are multiple of them. Yeah. But it shouldn't cluster. If I'm gonna zoom in, are there multiple of them? I don't know. But if I'm gonna go back to Barcelona, and click on this one. Okay, now it only has one event. So I'm gonna do event dot features at 0 dot properties dot event dot ID. This is the ID of the event that I want to navigate to. 20. So what I can do is I can say, hey, go ahead and do router dot push slash event. Is it event? Just event? Yes. Slash the ID of the event, which we can take from here. And if I will press here, boom, I am going to get to this event. If I go back and look at this one and press, I'm gonna go to Barcelona too. Perfect, exactly what I wanted. So this is your way of how you can do it. Circle radius, maybe you can do smaller, I don't know, it depends. And there is a lot of ways to adjust this map, how it looks, and more. Alright guys, I'm super happy with how much we managed to build today. We went a little bit over time, but at least we have everything that we have planned for today. So to summarize, in today's video, we have achieved a lot, and now we have a very complete application for event management. Of course, there is a lot of other features that you can add, but I hope that this is going to serve you as a starting point so you can build your own startups, you can build your own application, either for learning purposes or if you have ideas. I really want to see them out there in the market. In today's video, we have started by building the form that will allow users to create events. After that, we have added storage to upload images, such as user avatars and event images. Then we went into the Geo Queries. We search by the location, the events, using PostGis in the Supabase. This is super optimized and scalable, so even if you're going to have millions of events, whenever a user searches his local events, the queries are going to be very fast and optimized. Then we used MapBox to integrate maps. And here we integrated both the autocomplete features, and also we implemented the map with possibility to render events on the map and navigate to them. So where you can improve here is going to be specifically around, like, for example, Geo Queries. If you look at the documentation, you're going to see there another example, because now we have order by distance, but there is another example, finding all data points within a bounding box. This, if you implement this, is going to be very helpful for you for the map, because if I search and move, I update the map view. So I want to go ahead, take the information from the map view, minimum latitude, maximum latitude, and longitude, and send it to here, events in view, using these 4 values. And that way, get a new set of events that are here, move here, get them from another place. This is something that will improve the Geo Queries. When it comes to the maps, I would recommend you to implement, better markers for maybe icons, maybe names, and so on. Go ahead and learn about clustering and how you can display clusters. In our Lime clone, we actually have implemented clustering. So here you see cluster, it needs some filters, it needs some circles, and so on. You can check that tutorial to see it more in depth. For what else? For managing events and so on, or for avatars, I would really want to improve the attendance view. For example, if I go here, or maybe to an event where it has attendance, to display also the information about those users. Not only the name, but also the avatar. And maybe also display the avatar here. And yeah, that are just some ways you can improve it.